What is going on YouTube and Spotify? This is the Just BSN podcast, and today we got a little something different than we have been used to doing. But this is something that we both do a lot. We are in many drafts between the two of us, and obviously we're very heavily involved in fantasy football. So, with it being that time of the year, this is the last week of preseason. Fantasy drafts are officially beginning. I know I have one this Sunday. You have two Saturday and one Sunday. I think you said.
Hmm. Yep.
So he's in more than me, but we still got to do more drafts ourselves, depending on if we're doing best ball as well. But yeah, we're gonna do a fantasy football mock draft related episode, and we'll also obviously BS and talk about like certain players that we really think are gonna go off and whatnot this year, or
Yeah.
who might be slumps. Um, but yeah, we're not gonna worry about Browns or Guardians right now or anything like that. This is just gonna be a fun little episode where we just kind of screw around and BS like we always do. So Andrew, how are we feeling? How you ready for this little mock draft? Because we're both doing it. It's not just we're both gonna pick once. You have a team, I have a team, and then the rest are AIs. So they're gonna have a lot of probably weird picks. Um, this is not how our drafts are gonna go probably, but how are you feeling? Have you been doing a lot of mock drafts? Because I know I've been ramping it up, especially this week.
Yeah. First, I'm doing pretty well. Excited for this mock draft episode, and yeah, I got two Saturday, one Sunday, so I have three this weekend. I have another one next Saturday, and then obviously our Dynasty League draft whenever that decides to come up. So we have to wait for our commission on that to figure out when we're ready to draft then. But I've been hammering mock drafts like the last couple of days. Actually, this pat for the whole week, I've been doing at least a couple a day just to see how everything goes. Because obviously the ADP and everything changes every single day.
Yeah.
Rankings change every single day, so it's always good to keep on top of it. And it's just one of those things where if you really take it seriously like we do, you have to be on top of it every day because, like I said, rankings change, ADP changes, and so drafts are going to look different each and every single day. Like I have done like seven different mock drafts on one
Yeah,
league, and
they're
literally
never the
every
same.
it's never the same. I might get the same like first round pick every single time, but then after that it's just completely and utterly different.
Yeah,
So
yeah. So it's one of those things you really gotta, keep your head on a swivel about because
yeah.
not only that too, you get injuries, which is why I think
Yep.
it's a lot better to push drafts. Like when I first started drafting back in like 2016, or actually no, this was probably before then because this is when I was still in high school. Um, we would draft like towards the beginning of the preseason, and then you get
Mhm.
guys injured and stuff, and it would change. And you would kind of overdraft for some players when you would do that, and I think the having to let the preseason sort of play out, you get to see if some of these guys are even going to play in the preseason. Like you're not going to see a Walt Watson, you're not going to see Coop, you probably won't see
Mhm.
Jerry Judy or anything like that. So you don't know what their progress is going to look like. But for others, you might find some low key gems that'll really fall to
Mhm.
you at the back end of the draft, and that is where you can really make your money, and even more on the waivers. So that's been my strategy for years. I mean, I usually draft pretty well, but there's always guys that get hurt, and there's always guys that sort of step up and sort of step down in their roles every single year. It happens to everybody. So um, that's the fun part about fantasy football, and that's why I think we're all so damn addicted to it, along with putting a little money into it. It's like gambling,
Yeah.
um, but it's fun. Uh, I've enjoyed it. I got second in my big league last year. The other two leagues I didn't do too bad in, but didn't win. So this year I'm coming for blood, especially in that one league. I've been trying to win that league for like 5 years, so we're getting there. But yeah, basically standard rules. It's standard PPR 10 man mock. I'm in a 10 man. I think I have the fourth pick in my league, but Andrew has the fourth pick. I have the sixth pick as it was randomized, and the CPU is probably going to pick some guys that just are they could go inside in some of our drafts right there, but some of them might not because you also have the wild card of certain people that are in your drafts that pick wildly. They're either homers, um, or they're just so locked in on certain players that they'll always draft those guys. Um, so that's the other thing about fantasy football as well that I think I honestly think it's more fun than the drafting itself is
Mhm.
seeing why other people draft the way they do.
Yeah, no, I completely agree because there's been a league that I've been in before, and there's a guy who I think he was just starting out in fantasy. It's like a second or third year doing it, and he basically just picked people that he knew, and he would only know like big names, like he just knew like Tyreek Hill or like
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes, like Travis Kelsey, whatever, and he would only try to pick like people that he knew, and then he just wouldn't know anybody else in the league. So like guys were picking up like Kenneth Walker, and he's like, "Who the hell is that guy?" And it's like, so you don't know how a lot of these guys draft. It's crazy to see, like you said, it's always fun to see how people's minds work and like the different strategies that people use, especially in like leagues that me and you are in, where a lot of us have been doing this for over a decade, if
Yeah.
not a little bit longer, and we've all come up with like our own like little strategies that we've done, and we're in the mindsets now, like even if our strategy doesn't work, we have contingency plans behind it, so
Yeah.
we've always have a plan B, C, D, E, F, whatever. There's nothing that shakes us at this point anymore, um because you spend all these years just preparing for the randomness of that one guy who just decides to just snipe you or does something, and you're just like, ah, shit, now I got to come up with
Right.
this. And there's a guy in I'm in a league with a bunch of my old high school soccer teammates, which we've been doing this league for like, I think it's like 10 years now.
Oh yeah.
And our buddy Dan, he has a team called the Meme Team Dream Team, and he only drafts players with criminal records. And it's the most hilarious thing I've ever seen. Like he's like, all right, this guy's got a DUI, this guy beat his girlfriend, this guy did this, this guy
Right.
did
Oh my
that. And
god.
somehow, some way, there's some years where he actually does super well for no reason. It's like, how's this guy like third in the division, like third in the league? Like, there's no way. Like, his draft strategy is just drafting guys with criminal records, and he's third in the league. Meanwhile, this guy who spent fucking months just preparing for this thing, and he's in like set like eighth place out of like 10 people, and it's like,
Right.
what is like one guy's not even taking it seriously. So it's just absolutely hilarious to see the different draft strategies that people have, especially just a guy who takes it seriously. Don't get me wrong, he does take it kind of seriously. He'll draft
Mm,
serious players, but a lot of the bulk of his team is guys with criminal records, and it's absolutely hilarious. I love
yeah.
seeing it.
Yeah. Right. And like you're always gonna have drafts that will have guys like that. But I will say like when it comes to like this one draft that I'm in, which is a ESPN league. Honestly, that's my favorite app to use. We're using Sleeper today,
Yeah.
which is a very clean app. If you guys haven't used it, dude, check out Sleeper. They're really dope. I actually really like the way that their snake drafts look.
Yeah.
And I see a lot more apps starting to adapt that as well. So that's really cool. But Sleeper's all awesome. We have what? Well, you and I have at least two leagues on our Sleeper, which are both ran
Mhm.
by our buddy. One is a
I also
dynasty
have,
league.
I also have another one that I
Yeah.
just joined this year because I actually met this guy in my apartment building,
Hmm.
and he asked me to join his league, and I was like, screw it, I'll join it. And it's on Sleeper as well, so now I have three Sleeper leagues instead of just the
Yeah.
two.
So yeah, we have a dynasty league that I joined a couple years ago, and I'm not gonna lie, I hate this team right now. I really need to make some moves and start getting at it. But we have
Mhm.
that, and then we have our best ball team, which honestly, best ball is a lot of fun because it's strictly about how well you drafted. Like
Yeah.
what you draft is what you get. So the best ball league, if you guys haven't done a best ball league before, basically the guys you draft are the guys that are on your roster, and they will always automatically put the best player in the lineup. So like if you have a dude that was on your bench that went off like 25
Mhm.
points and you have another, your dude in your starting lineup with like 15, it's gonna put that dude with the 25 points up ahead of him. So it's really cool, but again, when you have injuries and you have guys that will sort of fall off or get traded or whatever, that can play a factor. And
Mhm.
best ball is very much luck in terms of your drafting. If you draft like shit, or if you draft, especially at the end, if you draft guys that are not even gonna play that you thought were gonna play, they're useless, and then you can't do
Yeah.
anything about it. So stuff like that's really fun too. But again, this is gonna be like a just a straight up PPR format sort of league, 10-man league that we are going to do. And yeah, we're just gonna kind of get into the minds of each other, and like, hey, when these guys start to fall, where's your head at? Like that's
Mhm.
pretty much how this is gonna go. And we're gonna have some fun with it. I have a drink over here with me as well, so I'm gonna drink a little bit, and we're gonna have some fun. So, Andrew, you got anything else to say before we start up the draft?
No, man. Like you said, it's just a nice 10-man PPR league. I know the main formats that a lot of people use in leagues nowadays are 10 to 12 man, um, usually half or full PPR. I recommend if you are a beginner and you're watching this and you're a beginner, I recommend just doing a simple standard league. I also recommend just using a simple app like ESPN's a very easy to use.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yahoo's good too.
Yahoo's good too. I also recommend maybe using the NFL Fantasy app because that's also
Yeah.
very easy to use. I'm not saying those apps are bad. Because I still use those apps to this day. I think I
There's
have
just some that are more user
yeah
friendly for sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sleeper's a little bit more complicated, just a little bit. But you'll get used to it. But
It looks
again,
cool.
but I recommend you start off with like an ESPN league and make sure it's like a standard league, just so you can get the feel for what it takes to play fantasy football. Don't put any money down on it yet. So again, like Zach said, we're just gonna get into each other's minds a little bit. We're gonna discuss our picks, what we picked, and obviously we don't recommend doing the exact draft that we do if you're in our position because again, drafts change every single day. So you might not get the exact players that I get at the fourth spot in the 10-man league. You might not get the same picks Zach does in the
Yep.
sixth spot in the 10-man league. It could be severely different. Again, you have to think about what your friends do and what or if you're drafting with like your family or your coworkers, what they're going to do. Because again, there could be a mock draft where CD Lamb is the first guy that goes, but then your buddy decides to draft CD Lamb as a number one pick, or sorry, Christian McCaffrey as a
Yeah.
number one pick, and then he goes then on a on a mock draft, and then you do your actual draft with your buddies, and someone picks CD Lamb as the first pick. So it changes
Yeah.
so differently, and people's minds are so different. So it's never to be expected. I saw a draft the other day where a guy did a mock and Christian McCaffrey went first, and then he did one with his buddies, and the first like three picks were C.D. Lamb, Tyreek Hill, and Justin Jefferson.
Yep.
McCaffrey didn't go until like the fourth or the fifth spot, and I was like, see how different everything
Yeah.
becomes when you draft with like real people. It becomes so different, and people's minds are incredibly different.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of that has to do with either keepers you have.
Keepers, yeah,
Your spots. Is it a PPR league? Like is it full? PPR league, half PPR league. Is it a league like us where we're kind of like a super PPR league in the dynasty leagues? We have two
mm.
starting quarterbacks, two starting tight ends, a super flex. Like we have
And
a
there's different
lot of guys on that roster.
yeah, and there's different parameters too. It could be a tight end premium. It could
Yeah,
be a QB premium. Like
yeah.
there's
QBs
so
go quickly in that league.
yeah. So
Yeah,
you'll see why because you could be in a tight end premium league and you're like, why are tight ends going in like the third round like so fast? And it's like
yeah,
because it's tight end premium, so you have to get the best tight end as quickly as you can, otherwise they're gone, and you're stuck with a down in the dumps guy who doesn't get a lot of catches
yeah.
and a lot of yards. So again, so many things vary into these drafts. Again, we're not doing any premiums, we're not doing anything crazy, so it's just going to be a standard fun little draft where we just again bullshit, have a couple drinks, and just enjoy what we're doing. And
Yeah.
so again, if you make sure you ask your commissioner what type of league you're in, if it's a premium or any premiums, make sure you look at the draft settings and rules because again, you don't want to be in the crosshairs of someone and you don't know what the hell you're doing and then you miss out. It could be again a QB premium and you miss out on the best QBs and you're stuck with Kirk Cousins and it's like a you don't want that kind of guy like
Yeah.
so there's different parameters that are set and you have to make sure that your commissioner and usually commissioners will send you over the rules and stuff like that before you accept the to be in the league and whatnot. So
Right.
just please be mindful. Don't get caught because otherwise you're gonna be thinking you're having the best draft of your life, and your team is one of the worst in the league. It could just happen
Absolutely.
super immediate. It could happen immediately.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, things about that too are also injuries and
Mm.
stuff. Anybody that, like for example, the league that I'm in before we start, one of our guys took Nick Chubb as like their first pick, pretty
Yeah.
much, and he was hurt after week 2, and that's after him coming off his best season as a Brown. So
Hmm.
we're rushing for over 1,300 yards, scored so many points. In fantasy, like that stuff happens too. So it's like
Yep.
fantasy football is also luck, but there is stuff that if you do right, if you understand your leagues, if you understand players, if you understand matchups, a lot of different things, it can win you leagues and it can win you money if you're really that fucking good. So,
Yep.
um, yeah. So before we start off, I'm gonna do a little shot. But cheers, guys. I'm gonna actually share the screen.
Damn. Now I wish I had a
Uh,
shot.
no, I'm going to go ahead and share the screen here. And so yeah, I can't really see you right now when I do this. Or actually, no, I can. Cool. Okay, so yeah, here's what it's gonna look like. Andrew, you got anything else before we start?
Nope. Let's
All
do it.
right, let's go ahead and
But
do it.
all right.
All right, this should be starting. There we go. All right. So yeah, you see computers automatically go CMC, Tyreek, and Bijan.
Yeah. So like you said already, Christian McCaffrey, Tyreek Hill, Bijan Robinson. I mean, there's nothing for me to say here. I'm just gonna take the best guy that's available right now. That's CD Lamb.
Yeah,
Got
absolutely.
to got to take a guy who under Dak Prescott's gonna have one of the best
Oh yeah.
one of the best years, and again one of the best receivers in the league. So easy grab here. Just take CD Lamb all day long.
Yeah. So okay, I'm in a unique position because I'm also starting to think about the way that my draft is going to go. So I said that my keeper was Kyron Williams, who was going to end up being somewhere in the probably the second round.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking wide receiver here, and when I'm thinking between Jamar Chase, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and AJ Brown, Amon is my dude. I'm thinking about him at 4 if Sadie somehow goes before him and Tyreek does too,
Yeah.
because I think Amon is going to be just an absolute machine this year. I know Jamar Chase is who he is, but until he gets that contract, we don't know what type of season he's going to have. So okay, you just saw right before my fucking pick, Kyron Williams goes off the board. So theoretically speaking, I could have gotten a running back in that first round, and it probably would have done me well because then I still have a nice layer of wide receivers. So I'm in a kind of unique spot because Marvin Harrison's very juicy for me here, but Derrick Henry is right there, and he will have a good year. Like that's not even a debate. The only way that this
Yeah.
gets messed up is if um I don't know why it's not showing it.
Yeah. I just happened to notice it's not showing on the screen.
This is goofy. Hmm.
Sorry, guys. We were.
Let's have you do it.
Oh, you
See if
want me to
it'll work for
share?
you. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see
Let
if you
me.
do it. Sorry, guys.
No, you're good. You're good. Let's see if it works for me. All right. Can you see?
Yeah, you might just have to get rid of our border if we can. If not, it's not a big deal.
Does
There
that
we
help?
go. Yeah, it
Perfect.
helps.
All
Cool.
right. Uh,
So yeah, it is a little goofy looking, but it's all right because you can still see it. So yeah. Anyways, I'm in a unique position here, and I'm thinking, fuck. This is already getting me. I'm trying to see who else is available in terms of running backs. And honestly, I really think I'm going to go running back here because I really want to lock down my top 2 running backs. So I'm going to go Derrick Henry. It's a little bit of a reach because I could have gotten Travis, um, and I could have waited a little bit longer and probably gotten a Pacheco. So maybe I do that in my next, draft. I don't know. So, all right, you're back. You're back up here. Where you going here?
yeah. So I'm back on the clock here, and again, my mind is thinking I'm gonna go with a running back as well. And then there's probably a good chance that I actually might go with a zero RB strategy, which for those who don't know, since we have two receivers and two flex spots, this is a prime time to try out things like a zero RB strategy, which means like I would draft a running back now, and I probably won't draft another running back until like close to like the eighth, ninth round,
Yeah,
and you just start hammering like wide receiver, tight end,
quarterback. Yep.
quarterback. You start getting your bigger positions filled, and you don't worry about another because there's guys later on in the draft like Jerome Ford and a couple other guys who are obviously going to start the season for their teams and make big impacts and whatnot. So I could always get one of those guys. I'm not in a hurry. Now, this is a 10 team, so I might bail depending on how the draft looks when it gets back to me on the zero RB strategy. But for right now, I'm going to take Travis Etienne here, and then we'll see how it gets back to me. So
All right.
it definitely looks like no other running back was taken. You have Travis Kelce, Drake London, Devontae Adams, Marvin Harrison, Josh Allen, and Chris Olave. So going back to the wide receiver, there's three guys that I'm eyeing up right now, and obviously it's the top three guys. You have Ayuk, Evans, and Nico Collins. Now, again, this could be a slight reach that people might think about, but I'm actually gonna go with Nico Collins here, just
I
because
don't hate that.
I think he has built a rapport with CJ Stroud last year. I think Stephon Diggs takes a little bit to fill in as a new receiver for Houston. I still think Diggs is going to be one of the better receivers on the roster, but again, I don't think CJ Stroud is going to bail on Tank Dell. He's not going to bail on Nico Collins. Um, so and plus CJ Stroud's a guy who's definitely going to spray the ball around the field a little bit. Nico Collins is a big deep threat kind of guy, so he's going to get a lot of those massive deep balls. So he could go for those 50-yard plus touchdown catches and whatnot and scores super high. So I'm definitely taking Nico Collins. And again, I could always hope that someone in a little bit like again like a Cooper Cup or maybe like a DJ Moore kind of falls back to me and I could snag one of those guys up and start cleaning up my receivers.
Yep. So, all right. I'm making a decision that I usually don't do this early in drafts. I usually do not take quarterback, but Pat Mahomes is right here. It's a little bit of a reach, but I'm actually going to go with Pat Mahomes because I actually like how the wide receivers are going to bounce back here. I
Mm-hmm.
still feel like I'm going to get great value. I already have, I'm on Raw, so here we go. Mike Evans, Moore, and Pittman were taken. So I still have the likes of Debo, Jalen Waddle, Cooper Cup, DK. You still have Malik Neighbors. There's still plenty of talent here. A lot of talent, actually. And I really think I'm just going to go with the best available here. And part of me would be fine with Diggs and even Samuel. Man, this is actually tough. I don't necessarily love these guys, but I think I'm going to just do what I think is right. See it. CJ Stroud will feed Stephon Diggs as well this year. I'm cool with Diggs.
Yeah, again, there I think taking any of the three receivers in Houston isn't going to harm anyone this year. Just for the fact that CJ Stroud is a good enough quarterback and he's probably going to be in those MVP conversations this year.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that someone like CJ Stroud is a guy who can spray the ball around the field, and you can have multiple guys. It probably could be Nico Collins and Stephon Diggs both having over 1,000 receiving yards this year. So, and I wouldn't put that past him, either one of them. So I think there's no wrong choice between choosing Nico Collins or Stephon Diggs. Which so I like that pick a lot. I am actually going to go with. I'm not going to go Debo here. I'm actually going to roll. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna change. I am gonna go with Debo. I know he's the best available right now. My thought process was go with Jalen Waddle.
Mm-hmm.
But again, with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle being injured as of right now, it seems I don't have that comfortability right now to go with Jalen Waddle. I do like Jalen Waddle a lot. Actually, no, we're gonna go with Jalen Waddle just because he did post a 1,000-yard season with Tyreek Hill. It's the same thing we just talked about with Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins, where two guys can both have over 1,000 yards. Again, it's gonna be another year where Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill both crash over 1,000. Now I'm gonna go tight end here, just for the fact that I got three good receivers that I am wanting. So I'm just gonna go, and I could take the best available tight end, which is Mark Andrews, or I can go with the new boy Dalton Kincaid, and maybe try and build a stack with Kincaid and Josh Allen. That could
Okay.
be a thought process I'm thinking about. I'm hoping, and I hope this doesn't give the AI any clue, but I'm hoping that someone like maybe CJ Stroud falls back to me, and I could stack CJ Stroud and Nico Collins.
Yeah. That's a little
But
bit of a gamble. I feel like, man. I mean, so
yeah,
Stroud in my league is a keeper, so he's off the
yeah,
limits for me anyway, which is why I'm so high on getting a top quarterback
of
early on.
course.
Man, yeah, that's tough. Because I mean, you're not wrong in really any of the choices you make. It's just
No,
gambling.
and even still, I can even get Mark Andrews and try and pair him up with Lamar Jackson,
Yeah.
which I'm actually going to take that risk. I'm going to go with Mark Andrews and kind of hope someone like Lamar Jackson falls to me or one of the guys fall back to me that I
So
want.
this one, I'm not really gonna think too hard on. I actually really think Smith is gonna go off again this year, so I am gonna go with
Oh,
Devonta Smith there.
I just noticed too Lamar Jackson went to Team 9, so I can't
Yep.
stack the Lamar Jackson.
All right.
But
So now this is where things are interesting because I do need another running back, but I'm also gonna start needing to think about tight end here. And I mean, you know what? I'm okay on tight end. I actually think, man, oh man, there's options.
it's a tough
This one's
choice.
tough. This one's very tough because like I could go with Kyle Pitts, and Kyle Pitts is probably going to be a great pick this year. I think he's going to be probably one of the better tight ends because of Kirk. I don't need a quarterback right now again, and the running backs right now, Aaron Jones is going to do what he does, but Minnesota is not going to be a good team this year. They're going to struggle. Um, and I guess I could take another wide receiver if I really wanted to. You know, I'm not gonna overthink this. Let's just go Kyle Pitts. Uh,
Okay.
I mean, his potential is up there. I mean, I know he hasn't really proven anything, but if him and Kurt can really click, that's gonna be a deadly combo.
Yeah, for sure. It would be an insane combo. And with my pick here, I know I said I was going to hit at going quarterback, but there's actually a chance I might go with another receiver here potentially. And I'm actually just going to go
There's a
with my
few, yeah, there's a few
there,
good guys here.
there's a few good guys here, but there's one guy that I know will fall and hopefully will fall to me. And I'm just going to go ahead and go with a QB that again I could trust, a QB that I know is going to perform well this season, and it's going to be a stack. I'm gonna go with Dak Prescott here and pair him with CeeDee Lamb.
Not a bad pick at all. I mean, Dak's gonna fill the numbers. You already know that.
Yeah,
And I do like him. We've talked about how we feel about Joe Burrow this year, but
hmm
how there's kind of some of that like
lingering
nerve
injuries. Yeah,
of his his it was an injury. So I mean I think Dak's a good pick, and I think if I didn't go Pat there, Dak would have been there instead of
yeah.
Pitts for sure.
And I didn't want to go with Anthony Richardson either, just for the fact that like I get it, Richardson's great with his legs, but obviously before we jumped on the call, I just saw him throw a pick six.
I was about to say I was watching the
Immediately.
game and he did not look good.
No, he
I'm
had,
worried
and
about him.
I think the people are overhyping him just a little too much.
Yeah.
I think he is a little gassed because he does still have issues with accuracy. And the ball he threw the guy, I mean, the guy was wide open if he just let him. Instead, he threw well behind him. I mean, it was like a 7 yard screen, and he threw well behind him, and it got picked off for a pick six. There has been reports in camp that it seems like his vision is just not good. Like he misses throws. He's missing guys open downfield. So I get it. He's great with his legs, but you can't. And even the Cincinnati defense was like, "What the hell is this guy on right now?" Because
Yeah.
they did practice together, um, and they were questioning what his decisions were. They're like, "Why would he throw that ball? That was a bad ball. Why is he doing this?" And they're like, don't get us wrong. He's great running wise. He's a great running QB, but you can't spend your whole career just trying to run. You have to make passes in this league as well. And this league, again, this is a league where rushing quarterbacks are the big thing nowadays. And especially in fantasy football, you want to get a good rusher. But I don't mind sitting on guys like Dak Prescott who run every so often, but also make good throws.
Yeah.
I'd rather have a guy like Dak who can make good throws, make good plays, get the ball downfield, find CD. I'd rather have that than a young second year quarterback who misses reads a lot, who can't seem to find open receivers and relies too heavily on his legs.
Yeah.
So I'm not sold on Anthony Richardson just yet. Here I am going to um again take a look at some of the wide receivers. Again, there's still good receivers here. There's Keenan Allen, Christian Kirk, Terry McLaurin. Um I do like McLaurin actually quite a bit just because I think he finally has a quarterback now that can get him the football.
Yeah.
um and I truly believe that um Jaden Daniels is going to be the guy in Washington. And even without Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin still, I think he posted up 1,000 yards still last season. So he's definitely an option I could think of. There's another guy that I'm kind of praying would fall back to me, but I don't know if I really want to chance it. And that guy is Rashi Rice from the Kansas City Chiefs because, again, Rice is a very, very good, talented wide receiver. And it doesn't seem like he's going to get suspended this season for the incident that he had this offseason because the investigation is still ongoing. I watched a mock draft, ESPN mock draft with all the ESPN people, and that included Adam Schefter.
Mm-hmm.
And even Schefter said that and this was yesterday, so investigations are still ongoing. Nothing has popped up yet. And they said they can't suspend him until the investigations are completely and 100% over. And since investigations aren't even close to being done, there's probably a good chance that Rashi Rice plays this season. So if you're one of those people who was worried about Rice playing at all, there's probably a very high chance he does play this year, and I would say it's okay to go ahead and draft him. So, and again, I could also go running back here and restart my running back train, but I think I'm gonna go with the wide receiver here, and I'm gonna just go kind of with a safe option because I can go with Keenan Allen for Chicago. I think Caleb Williams would be great throwing the ball to Keenan Allen. It'd be great to have a veteran receiver, but I'm actually gonna go with Christian Kirk. And the reason being is Kirk and Lawrence have built a rapport together,
Yeah.
and I definitely think Christian Kirk is a very undervalued receiver in the league. So I truly believe, and again, another 1,000 yard receiver. I truly believe that Christian Kirk is very undervalued in fantasy this year, and I think him and Trevor Lawrence are going to have a great year together.
And he was solid last year. Like
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
had him, and he was a consistent flex slash,
Exactly.
a wide receiver too for me.
Hmm.
So yeah, we're getting back to it, and I'm gonna take another running back here, and that's David Montgomery. And the only reason why I like him is just because he's a touchdown machine. He's gonna
Hmm.
be like Kareem for us like last year, where he scores a lot of touchdowns. He's not gonna be the yardage guy like Gibbs will be. Gibbs is also dealing with an injury right now, and I don't know how severe that is. So he and I had Gibbs last year, so he was very frustrating to have. I think having Montgomery this year is going to do me some good, so I am going to go that way. And now start to get into some weird, spots because This is where I could have taken a tight end instead of going Pitts when I did, and I think that's my only mistake because you still have Evan Ingram, you still have Brock Bowers, who I think is going to be a stud this year. There's still Chief here. Jordan, Addison is obviously gone. You still got Jake Ferguson. There's a lot of talent still here.
Mhm.
So what I'm actually gonna do, man, this is an interesting one.
Is a
Very
tough, interesting.
interesting one. Hmm.
What's that mind doing?
It's trying to cook up something mysterious here. Um, I'm just having a little bit of difficulty figuring this out. I mean, there's a lot of guys hurt right now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm going with. Man, this is tough. I think Tony Pollard is fine. He's not going to be a crazy back, but I already have 3 now, so he's going to be a solid backup. Running backs tend to go very quickly, and also running backs are a really good spot to get in waivers
Yeah.
when guys start getting hurt. We don't. I'm really curious to see how far Nick Chubb falls in this draft. Whether it be one of us or just the computer, because getting him as like your third or fourth running back is huge. Because by the time he comes back, by like week 8, that dude is going to be an absolute fucking machine, and he can be a flex or even a running back 2 for you all day long.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that I am back on the clock here, again, my mind is thinking either going running back or wide receiver here. I think I could slowly start getting back into the running back position, as there are a couple guys that are decent. Obviously, there's guys like Zamir White here from the Raiders. Again, I'm not too happy about Raheem Mostert because Raheem Mostert, again, was the touchdown guy last year. But I don't think he's going to get that goal line work again after what we saw of Devon Achane.
Mm.
I think Devon Achane is going to be the guy, and they're kind of going to go to Mostert a little bit less, I'm sure. So, and again, I just don't trust Najee Harris whatsoever anymore. I truly believe that Jalen Warren's actually better than Najee Harris. So, in my brain, I can actually feel like I could skip out on running back for one last like turn, and I can probably just go with another wide receiver here. And the wide receiver jumping out at me, it's obviously the top one is Calvin Ridley. I think Calvin Ridley, being the number one guy in Tennessee, he he has Will Levis as his quarterback. But again, he's going to be the go-to target for pretty much everything. I know people say DeAndre Hopkins is there, but DeAndre Hopkins has kind of regressed quite a bit ever since joining Tennessee, and I truly believe that Calvin Ridley was few far and in between. I mean, Calvin Ridley is actually listed as the number one, as the wide receiver 1 listed. So it seems like they have more trust in Calvin Ridley, and again, his numbers last year just kind of looked a lot better. I mean, he consistent, double digit points and whatnot. So I do believe Ridley is good. Again, I can also take Jordan Addison here. He's still available, which is actually kind of surprising to see. I know Justin Jefferson is the go-to guy, but
Just remember, he is hurt too.
yeah, Justin
And we
Jefferson
don't
is
know
hurt.
how severe he is.
I could also be sneaky and actually go with the young guy Lad McConkey as well. And actually, that's what I might do here. Is I'm gonna pull on Lad McConkey. I think it's a great pick here, a young rookie. Definitely gonna be one for um Justin Herbert to throw to and be the number one guy. He is actually still listed as the number one target or number one wide receiver for the Chargers. And I think it's just a fresh face because, again, you had old guys, Quentin Johnson, Keenan Allen, and these guys were getting hurt left and right. And there's really nobody for Herbert to throw to. So I think getting Lad McConkey is going to be very beneficial for Justin Herbert. And I think he's going to be a top rookie wide receiver this year. And then back on the clock again, we have, okay, so Mostert did go, Calvin Ridley, then Hollywood Brown. This might be the time where I could go Zamir White. Obviously, Nick Chubb's on the pup list. I could stash him if I really needed to. I could also, again, continue to wait, but I do see guys like Javonte Williams, Zach Moss is available. Javonte is also a really good pick here. And it's kind of eating me up because I don't know who to kind of go for here.
Yeah.
But I think I might go with my mind is telling me to go with Javonte just because I think Javonte is overall just a better running back. I am a little worried about his injury history.
Yeah.
Which is wanting me to lean off of him and go Zamir White or Zach Moss. But just for the sake of it, because this isn't an actual team, this is just a mock draft, I'm going to go with Javonte Williams.
Okay. Awesome. So this puts me in a perfect spot for the guy that I've wanted. This is one of the guys that I'm going to have my eye on in a lot of drafts. And now, dude, this is where we're going to find some real good gems, especially at wide receiver. You're going to find some at running back, some good tight ends, but dude, wide receiver is beautiful here. So I'm going to take Keon Coleman. We have been hearing from the Bills he's going to be wide receiver 1 this year, and they don't have a lot of other guys to throw to besides Kincaid.
And Shakir.
Yeah. So it's going to be an interesting room there. And, I mean, I could get really cute here with, like, a lot of different things. Man. God, I'm feeling fucking crazy right now. I really am. And this is the other part about drafting. Sometimes you just feel like, hey, I just got to roll the dice with this one. Now, I'm not going to do it with the guys that I've been thinking about, but I think this is actually time for me to get... Man. Let me see who else is available at this position that I could go with. Okay, not the greatest. You know what? I'm doing this. I am going to go with Brock Purdy.
Oh, interesting.
I decided to go 2 quarterback here. And the reason why is really just because it's always nice to have a good backup. And also, it's good to have 2 good quarterbacks because if something is struggling on your team and you have the ability to dump one of those quarterbacks, you can dump that in a trade. And although this obviously isn't going to be a leak for anything, it's still in my mind because I'm still thinking about, you know, hey, I could use him as a trade piece if he really goes off. Because, I mean, there's no secret. St. Fran's offense is going to be probably one of the top offenses still, again, this year, as long as CMC's healthy. So Brock Purdy's going to put up numbers regardless. So that's the reason that I did that.
Yeah, with my pick, I'm actually going to start a trend as well because you started the 2 QB trend. I'm actually going to start the 2 tight end trend.
And I almost did that.
And again, I could have a 3 stack, and I can go Jake Ferguson here on top of CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott and just really pour into touchdowns because, again, Jake Ferguson is a touchdown machine. When the Cowboys get into the goal line, they look to him a lot on that goal line. So I'm going to hit on Jake Ferguson, and he's going to be my tight end. And I want to see how many touchdowns he had last year. So he had 1, 2, 3, 4. So he had 4 touchdowns. But again, he has gotten the ball quite a bit. I mean, a lot of green here in the PPR fantasy numbers, a lot of double digits, a lot of green. So clearly Dak Prescott on that offense likes Jake Ferguson quite a bit. I like Jake Ferguson a lot. And obviously, there you go. You go with the 2 quarterbacks. And I just got sniped because I was going to go with Tua Tagovailoa as my QB.
You still got Jared Goff. You still got Jalen Daniels at QB. I mean, they're still good. I mean, they're still, you know, Herbert. You still have A-Rod. You have Kurt. You have Stafford.
Well, and that's what I'm gonna go with Jared Goff here, just because I think the Lions' offense is, again, it's gonna be one of the best offenses in the league. Him and Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and Sam Laporta are just very, very good, a very good trio. And then you have Jameson Williams, who's also back now from injury, and Jameson Williams was a solid receiver before he went out, so they're going to connect quite a bit too on deep balls. So again, just like what you did with Brock Purdy, just a great backup quarterback to have in case if something happens to Dak Prescott. Boom, I got Jared Goff right there ready to go.
Yeah. So this is another interesting spot for me to be in. Um, Let me see. So I got 4 wide receivers, 3 running backs, 2 quarterbacks, and 1 tight end. I might jump on this train with you with the whole tight ends. And I think I'm gonna go with I'm actually good with Hawkinson, even though he's hurt right now. I have the
Mhm.
fact that I have Kyle Pitts. I don't have to start him anytime soon, obviously. So I think he can be a cool backup in case Pitts starts to suck towards the end of the season and he really starts to pick back up because Hawkinson was one of the best tight ends in the league last year, in my opinion. So now we're getting into some fun stuff. There's some really fun guys to go out and get. And this is when I'm going to start getting a little freaky. I really fucking like this next guy. I think he's going to be an absolute tank for us, and it's Jerry Jeudy.
Oh,
I just think he is going to be. It's a reach, absolutely. But out of those other wide receivers above him, that's not that much of a reach to me because the only guy that I think that was better before that was Sutton. Lockett's too old. Adonai Mitchell's a first year guy. You know, the only other guys that would be cool, Leggett would have been really cool. Gabe Davis is still there for Jacksonville. Um, there's just we're starting to get down to where we're not in the greatest wide receivers now. So I really want to lock down that sort of top 5, yeah, 5 wide receiver spot. So that's where my
yeah.
head's at right now.
Yeah, and I don't mind that at all. I want to go for my fifth receiver here, and again, there's some, and this is probably gonna be my last receiver too off the board. And I just got two guys in mind right now, and the two guys I have in mind right now are Cortland Sutton, and honestly, I don't see Romeo Dubes, but maybe uh Khalil Shakir, just for the fact that Khalil Shakir is the number 2 guy in Buffalo, and he's going to get a lot of looks from Josh Allen, and Josh Allen seemed to like him a little bit last year as well. So I could go Cortland Sutton, I could go Shakir Sutton. I still believe is the number 1 guy for Bo Nix, and again, it's just all about how Bo Nix plays, and he's actually looked really good this preseason, and people have been surprised on how Bo Nix has actually looked this year or to start the NFL. And I'm gonna put some trust into him. I'm gonna go with Cortland Sutton for my final wide receiver. Again, we're talking like this. These guys are gonna be on our team. They're not gonna be on our team because it's just a fake mock draft. And again, the guy before me sniped me once again. He went with Jerome Ford, and that was actually gonna be my pick. Was gonna be Jerome Ford. As Jerome Ford, obviously, is gonna be the day one starter as the Browns running back due to the Nick Chubb injury, and I'm sure Nick Chubb is gonna miss probably was the first 4 games of the season most likely. So I ended up getting sniped again. I was gonna go with Jerome Ford, and once again I just got kind of two guys on my mind. The first is being Zach Charbonnet because again Kenneth Walker does deal with a lot of injuries. I know it says Zach Charbonnet is injured, but I think he's reading his report. He's supposed to be good by the season. Yeah, he practiced on Tuesday and whatnot, and he has some tightness, but it looks like he should be good to go as soon as the season starts. And if anything happens to Kenneth Walker, I think Zach Charbonnet is a very good back, and I'm just gonna pick him right here and there.
All right. I'm gonna start doing something fun. Um, going the greatest of all time, the kicker here.
JT.
Because why not? I mean, in some leagues, kicker can really start to kick ass, and it's really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm doing that, and then I'm gonna follow it up. I'm just gonna go Browns defense because I fucking love this defense, and I need a defense. And then my last pick is gonna be whatever the fuck I can get. So
There you go.
yeah, it's kind of best available.
Damn, kind of stole my defense. I'm just kidding. um, nah, it's funny too because in one of my leagues here on Sleeper, the one that the guy I met in my apartment building, because it's a 12-man league and I have the 10th pick. And every single time at the very end of the draft, the Browns always fall to me, and I always pick the Browns, and I picked them 6 out of like 7 times in the mock drafts that I've done. So I feel like I'm almost guaranteed the Cleveland Browns defense if everything goes right. But obviously, I knew Zach was going to go with the Browns defense because obviously we're Browns fans. The Browns defense is elite, #1 defense in the NFL last year. Whatever's in the waters here in Lake Erie has helped his defense a lot. So I'm just gonna go with a very safe option, a very safe kicker, and I'm just gonna go with Jake Elliott. Jake Elliott gets a lot of kicking opportunities with the Eagles. They score a lot and they get in field goal range a lot. So not too much of a hard pick here.
No,
And then obviously, last but not least, we're gonna say fuck defense. We're gonna go with Khalil Shakir here. I'm just kidding. We're gonna go with the defense because obviously this is a mock draft with a defense, and I can't insert Khalil Shakir in a defensive role, unfortunately. So I'm gonna try and find the better end of a defense here, and I'm looking towards maybe the Philadelphia Eagles or the Kansas City Chiefs as they have good solid defenses. And I think I'm just gonna hammer home the Philadelphia Eagles defense to round out my draft.
Do not blame me there. It's not a bad pick at all. And now I'm in a cool spot because I can go it's either going to be wide receiver or running back here. And there's a couple cool guys that you could take at changing its on, but I think I'm going to go with the safest bet. And I said his name earlier. Xavier Legette is going to be wide receiver 1 for Carolina. As long as he stays healthy, that kid's actually going to be a lot of fun. So that's the draft. That's pretty much how it went.
And I could highlight both of our teams, like kind of like highlight them like individually. Yeah. So we'll take a look at your team first.
Yeah.
And I actually love this team a lot. Got a stud in Amon-Ra St. Brown with the 6th overall pick, and he's just gonna be an absolute stud this year. There's no doubt about what he can do. He had a torn oblique all of last year and
still played.
Posted 1,500 fucking yards, over 10 touchdowns. This dude's absolutely wild. If his oblique was falling off the bone and he's posting 1,500 yards, there's nothing this man can't do. So Amon-Ra St. Brown is just an absolute stud. And then, of course, you go with Derrick Henry, just an absolute workhorse of a running back. It seems like no matter what puts him down, he just continues to get better every year. So, again, a very hammered home. Then you got Mahomes, Diggs, Smith, Pitts, Montgomery, Pollard, Coleman, Purdy, Hawkinson, Judy, Tucker, Browns, and then Legette. I mean, overall, I think I would give this an A draft. Like, this is a very, very good draft from you. You got 3 good running backs. Any one of all 3 starting running backs, too. So, if you ever need a flex spot, you can always just insert one of those in a flex spot.
Yeah.
And again, 3 good running backs, 3 good starting running backs. Again, high value receivers. These are guys who are going to get high volume targets. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Diggs, and Smith. High volume targets. A lot of guys who are going to score a lot of points this year. Then the wide receivers here, and Keon Coleman and Jerry Judy. Coleman is going to be hot off the rocks. Like you said, he's going to be the wide receiver. He's going to start as a wide receiver 3, but I have no doubts as a rookie, he's going to get a lot of love from Josh Allen. So I think this is an absolutely great draft here from you.
Oh yeah, it was a lot of fun. And this was a little risky for me because I usually do not take quarterbacks as high as I took Pat Mahomes. I've never taken a quarterback that high since I first started, because I used to always be those guys that would get a Drew Brees in the 8th to 10th round and
Yeah.
be totally satisfied. But you just don't always get those guys. And yeah, you can. Like, you still see a Brock Purdy falling. But then after that, you still have the likes of Trevor Lawrence. You could get a Caleb Williams or Tua, Goff. But there's not a whole lot more value there. And there is still some decent quarterbacks available, like Watson, if he can turn
Mhm.
it on. But the reason why he's not getting drafted is because he just hasn't proven enough yet. So people are just going to be like, I don't want to draft him. But I was really happy with how the receivers fell for me. I think honestly, this is probably one of the strongest wide receiver cores I think I've personally drafted in a mock in a long, long time. I don't even think I've gotten this good of a lineup um, in a normal draft in a minute. Because I mean, dude, Amon's my dude. Um, and Diggs, Diggs is the only guy that I'm a little concerned with, but you know what you're gonna get out of Devonta Smith. You know what you're gonna get out of Jerry Judy. I think this year, and Coleman should be pretty good. So I think the upside is absolutely there. Obviously, I got the best kicker. I got a solid defense, and Legette's a cool guy to see how he does. You don't have to throw him in your starting lineup. And the only thing that's kind of weak is my running backs. But again, I didn't value running back as much for this draft because I'm still thinking again in my head that my last pick instead of Leggett is going to be Kyron Williams in my one league because he's going to be my keeper in the last round. Um, so that's kind of why I drafted the way I did, and I think I could use this strategy going into my draft on Sunday because
Yeah.
this would be really fun, especially getting a guy like David, Montgomery, and then also if I take Derrick Henry that high up, I have Derrick Henry and Kyron as my two big running backs, and then I can really go heavy on wide receiver. So, yeah, that was a fun one. That really was. But let's turn back to you because
Yeah.
um, this is a really fun draft from you. Because CD is obviously what he is. Now, it just
Yeah.
really depends on if he's going to play. I don't know what his contract thing is going on with. Let's hope he doesn't hold out and try to be weird. Uh, but NTN was solid last year. He was really good in PPR leagues because
Yeah.
he catches a lot of balls.
Yep.
And Nico Collins and Jalen Waddle are two guys that are going to be strong. They're kind of the same type of player. Jalen Waddle is definitely more of a possession catcher, and he does have the ability to have big games. But Nico is the only guy I think that can really outdo Diggs, on that team. Tank Dell's going to be fun this year too, but those two are really solid. Mark Andrews is going to be fun. I'm really curious to see how they balance him and Likely.
Yeah.
That's because Likely had really good games last year when Mark Andrews was out. So that is going to be interesting if they play them both at the same exact time or how they end up doing that. But then you continue to fall down with Dak Prescott. He's going to be a fantasy machine this year. He's going to throw a lot of yards. He's going to throw a lot of touchdowns. As long as he has CD with him, he is going to throw the ball, and they're going to throw the ball a lot. And it's going to be him. It's going to be Ferguson. It's going to be whoever they can get the ball to. But him and CD as a pair for this fantasy league could really honestly win you a league if they go off as much as they did last year. Kurt was very good last year as well. Very underrated wide receiver, I think, in any draft.
Yeah.
I do agree that you said he was soared again, slept on, and he was just so consistent when he wasn't hurt. He had that little oblique issue that he had, uh, but dude, when he played, he was always getting a touchdown. He was getting like 75 yards receiving. Like it's enough to get you that 15 points out of flex that you need out of a flex. And he also has the ability to go up 28 points in the flex. It's crazy. McConkey's cool. We'll see how he pairs up. I know the Chargers, their wide receiver room looks weird, so McConkey could really be crazy. Um, Javonte Williams, he's cool. I'm just worried about his history of getting hurt. I,
Yeah.
I don't love your running backs, but I don't hate them. Charbonnet is really cool. He's going to be, I think he'll have more say at the red zone, especially. Like he should be a guy that they should throw in there and just be a tank. Um, but overall, man, I really do like this draft. I think Ferguson's great, Goff is great, Sutton is awesome, Elliott's fine. Eagles D defense is going to be solid. They're going to have a lot of turnovers, I think, this year again. It's not a bad draft at all from you. It really isn't.
Yeah, my thought process was this was the opportunity for me to try out the zero RB strategy and just to see how it would go. Because I kind of wanted to get fun and cute with it, like you said. And again, for those who don't know what the zero RB strategy is, it's you draft like one of the top running backs in the league from the jump. And for me, that was getting um Travis Etienne in the second round because obviously I couldn't pass up CD Lamb. I could have easily gone with Brees Hall, but I said Travis Etienne, and then you basically don't draft another running back until almost like there's called something called like a running back quote unquote dead period, where I want to say it's rounds like 4 through 8. All the running backs are just like it's like dead period running backs. They're not really good. They're just kind of average or meh running backs. And then you start getting to some like weird like oh now the running backs are actually solid again. And so the zero RB kind of helps you avoid that dead running back zone. And I was able to escape with Javonte Williams, who is a great running back when he's not injured. And the whole focus on a zero RB strategy is to, again, we had 2 receivers and then 2 flexes. And I only recommend you do the zero RB when your draft is like that.
Yeah.
When it's when you can play 4 receivers, that's when you want to hit the zero RB strategy. In all of my leagues that I'm in this year, I'm not able to do that because it's 2 receivers and 1 flex. So it's not worth trying it because then you're just stashing receivers for no reason and they're not going to get played. Because again, I have 5 receivers, or yeah, I have 5 receivers, or no, 6 receivers. I have 6 receivers.
Yep.
4 of them can play, and then in case of 2 get injured, I could slot 2 right in. So it's not going to be easy when you have 6 receivers and 3 spots. What are you going to do? You have to hope you almost have to wait for all 3 of your receivers to get injured to play everyone.
Yeah.
And it's just not a formidable strategy. So it was just something to try out here again because this is obviously just a normal mock draft. This isn't going to be a team that we're both making for any league. So I tried out the zero RB strategy, hammered home Javonte Williams in the 9th, almost 10th round, which was I think a great value for him, especially with what he can do and if he's healthy. And again, zero RB strategy is just all about not worrying about the running back position, more so worrying about your receivers and your tight ends. Because those are the guys who are going to score you the most points in this league. It's not going to be your running backs unless you have, again, Brees Hall or, Bijan Robinson or Christian McCaffrey, guys who can run the ball well but also catch the ball and do something after the catch. After that, Travis Etienne's probably going to get maybe 14, 15 points per game. And that's about it.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, CeeDee Lamb, Nico Collins, Jalen Waddle, those guys are going to go off for almost like 25, close to 30 points a game. They're going to hit heavy. Again, Mark Andrews is going to be up there in the 20s range because he always is. He's always getting over 100 yards and he's getting touchdowns left and right. Yeah. So all my points are going to come from my top 4 receivers and my tight end. And that's where all the points are going to come from.
Absolutely. Yeah. Dude, it's not a bad strategy, like especially in PPR leagues, wide receivers are, I think, a lot more sought out.
Yeah.
But I think having a strong, like 2 or 3, running backs is very key, especially when you got weird bye weeks. That's another thing you really want to look for. But sometimes leagues fall like this and sometimes they don't. Like it's just it's really where your pick is at, but also B, who the fuck is in your draft.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you get some weird people that draft really weird, weirdly, or they don't do research and they're picking players that are just like, that was too much. Like that was too high.
Yeah.
And, but also you have to think about, I took Pat Mahomes in in the third round, that's a little bit of a reach for me to get a quarterback that high. But sometimes you got to take some risk as well.
Mm-hmm.
So learning where you're going to risk it and where you're going to stay safe, I think is very important. And just trust your instincts and just trust what you know about the game, and you'll form great teams. And it's not hard to make a good team. I think it's harder to maintain a good team because again, I think waivers are one of the most important parts of of fantasy football, and that's something not a lot of people talk about. But waivers can be the difference between winning and losing a
Yeah.
league straight up.
Yeah. Now, before we close this out, do you want to give like one like big tip that you have on fantasy football, and I can give one as well?
Yeah. Um, I guess my biggest tip is, especially when it comes to your like top 2 or 3 picks,
Mm-hmm.
either go for best available or plan around your keeper. Plan around your keeper, I think, is honestly the bigger tip. If you have a keeper league, if you
Yeah.
don't, this is irrelevant to you and it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But if you have a keeper league and you also pick your right keeper, pick your right keeper. Don't pick somebody that is going to be not good for you or
Mm-hmm.
doesn't have good round value. Um, for me, keeping Kyron as a 16th round pick, the very last pick of my draft, is huge because you see he went before Derrick Henry,
Yeah.
literally right before Derrick Henry. So he's falling after Jonathan Taylor, Gibbs, Saquon. Those guys are going to fall. So plan around your keeper and again, use the waivers. That's my
Mm-hmm.
biggest tip. Do not be afraid to drop certain players if they're struggling or even look for trades, but make your trades fair.
Yeah. I completely agree. I think we said, and I know when me and Austin used to have our fantasy football show way back when, we both said that waivers win leagues. If you can, if you can win the waiver wire, you're gonna win your league. And I think that's one of the bigger fantasy tips there is. Is just if you can hammer that waiver or the waiver wire, you got a great chance of winning your league. My big tip is drafting guys with heavy targets and heavy target shares.
Yeah.
If as you, again you see my draft, I got guys like C.D. Lamb, Jalen Waddle, Nico Collins, guys who get the ball a lot. I mean, trying to look at receiving for Nico Collins, 11 targets, 9 targets, 9 targets, 11, 9, 12, 8, 9. He's getting a lot of targets. C.D. Lamb again, a guy who got 13, 8, 7, 6, 7, 14, 16, 14, 9, 9, 17, 10, like over 10 like a game. Again, a guy with heavy target shares. Same thing with Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle getting quite a bit as well. Again, 7, 7, 6, 10, 9, 12, 8, 8, like averaging almost 8 or more targets. You want guys with heavy target shares. And for running backs, again, guys who get the ball 20 plus times a game. You want guys on your team that get touches. It doesn't matter about the
Yeah.
name anymore. You can't worry about the name. Like, I know you see, like, I don't even think DeAndre Hopkins got drafted in this draft. And everyone's like,
I think he did. It was a
did he?
little bit later. Let me see.
I
I
think it
know.
might have been late.
Oh yeah, it was Team 7, round 10. So the
Okay.
fourth pick of the 10th round.
But
So
again,
he went right before my pick for Brock
yeah.
Purdy.
But again, you could see like he's getting high target shares, but now with someone like Calvin Ridley in the team, those target shares are going to go down.
Yeah.
And again, this is the point that I was trying to make earlier in the video. You can't focus on just a guy's name. Focus on what their targets look like. Look at their targets from last year. Look at who's on the roster now. And those are the guys you want to get, are the guys with the high target volume. Because now that they have, let's go back to DeAndre Hopkins. Now that they have Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley is going to eat up a lot of those targets. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he had 10, 11 targets. Drop that down to like 6 now for DeAndre Hopkins. You don't want to draft DeAndre Hopkins. And everyone's like, well, it's DeAndre Hopkins. He's a stud. It's
Yeah.
like,
He's good for a potential deep ball
he's a
or
good for
two.
potential deep ball net. Like, you got to remember, a lot of these guys eventually are just going to fall out of favor now. We're starting to see, I mean, look at Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett on team two was his third to last pick. These were guys like not even 2 years ago who were third round picks, second round picks. Same with DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf went pretty late. I mean, he went in the middle of the draft.
Yeah.
And again, these are guys who went top 5, top 10, top 2 rounds. So just because they're a big name player doesn't mean they're going to perform super well. A lot of these guys fall out of favor. Same thing with Chris Godwin. Mike Evans is probably going to be everyone's number one again. And because why? He gets a lot of touchdowns, he gets a lot of volume, he gets a lot of red zone targets. Chris Godwin's good for a couple deep balls here and there, and that's about it.
Right. But even so, Chris Godwin's getting old too. Like
Yeah.
that's another that's another thing too that you got to look. It's you got to look
Age.
at age, but also and this is something that you kind of tied up on when it comes to roster. But think about their situations. Like the reason
Mm-hmm.
why we didn't get Joe Burrow is because we don't like his O line. We don't like his running game right now,
Yeah.
and we are unsure what's going on with it. Jamar Chase, and all he has is T Higgins, and Gasecki to throw to. So I mean, you got to think about guys' situations. You got to think about the fact that Jay Jetta, even though he was picked as the fifth pick, he may not have a big year because he's gonna have Sam Darnold throwing to him.
Yeah.
You don't know if Nakua is gonna have a down year. You don't know if Debo is gonna have a good year. Same with Metcalf. You see Harrison's up there above, Olave and Nico and DK. Uh, it really just depends on people's
Situation.
situations
Mm-hmm.
and who else they have behind them. Like if you are picking a running, a guy, whether it's a running back or quarterback, whatever, if they don't have enough talent around them or if they don't have the pieces, then they either are going to go off or they're going to struggle mightily when it comes to wide receiver.
Mm-hmm.
If they're like wide receiver 2 on like a decent team, they're going to do all right. But if it's a wide receiver 2 on a great fucking team, like a Ayuk and Debo thing, that's where guys are going to play well. So yeah, look at guys' situations, what they
Yeah.
are dealing with their roster, with their coaching, their offense, whatever. Like Josh Allen may not have a good year this year.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen may not have a big time fantasy football year unless he runs for a lot of touchdowns, which he could do because he started doing it at the end of last year. There's just a lot of factors, man, and it's at the end of the day, fantasy football is a lot of luck. It
Yeah.
really is. When it comes down to it, you can do all of these things, and you can put yourself in a good spot to win, but it's all luck at the end of the day.
What's funny is I heard a stat on the ESPN mock draft show the other day about Josh Allen and if he's going to regress without Stephon Diggs. And they said something like towards the end of the season when Stephon Diggs was out or whatever, he was like Josh Allen was like a top 6 quarterback still because he was able to not just focus on throwing the ball to Stephon Diggs, but he could throw it to Kincaid. He could throw it to Shakir, who was very reliable for him towards the end of the year. He had guys he could just spread the ball to and use his legs, and he looked a lot better than with Diggs on the field.
Yeah.
And so that could help a lot of guys too. There could be what we call locker room cancers. And Stephon Diggs is definitely one of those guys. And
Yeah.
it showed in Buffalo because when him and Josh Allen got into the fight and stuff, and Josh Allen kind of stopped throwing the ball to him, the Bills looked a lot better offensively. So, and Josh Allen looked a lot better offensively. So they said, yeah, we don't need you. Go have fun in Houston. We'll just draft another receiver and just be done with it. And they got Keon Coleman, who you drafted, I believe. Yeah, you drafted Keon Coleman. and he could be a fun rookie receiver. So again, the top three that we just mentioned are target shares, uh, player situations, whether it's, and you have to look at every position, offensive line, what injuries and stuff like that, and then your big one. So if you combine all these three together,
Yeah.
you could win your league with ease.
Oh yeah.
And we're not going to be those guys who you see on YouTube or those big draft fantasy football guys, and we're trying to sell you a $35 fantasy football kit to help you win your league.
No.
There's just a couple pieces of advice that we gave you that will help just as much as paying $30 for a guy's shit draft guide.
Mhm.
You're just paying him to be, because how do you know that guy wins his league every year?
Yeah.
They could tell you on video like, "Hey, I won my league for the last 3 years in a row, and here's my ultimate draft kit."
And it's like you don't need a draft kit. You just need a good app that will help you project players and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and you're fine.
All you have
Like,
to do is just a little bit of research on your
yeah,
own, a little bit of your own research, and you're golden. Like, it's not a difficult thing to do. And that guy who is probably selling you that draft kit probably came third to last in his league last year. He probably got smoked by a lot of his buddies, and he's just afraid to tell you, so he's gonna tell you he won the league or that he did really really well, and just wants you to buy his $30 draft kit. So don't fall for that.
yeah,
I never bought a draft kit. I'm sure Zach never bought a draft kit. It's stupid. And again, we just gave you three big pieces of advice that could easily help you win your league.
absolutely. And honestly, it's not hard to win a league, especially if you are in a league full of dummies that don't know what they're doing,
Yep.
and you just do a little bit of research and preparation. You will win your league hands down.
Yep.
And there's also guys that are gonna quit maybe mid-season because they're gonna have half their guys get hurt. I mean, that's happens every year.
Or they're
Um,
like 1 in 6 or something, and
yeah,
they just give
yeah,
up.
they're just in the gutter and they don't know what to do. Um, so again, winning a league is not that hard, but again, it's a lot of luck, and like I don't,
Yeah.
you can't buy somebody's little kit for $35, and it may help give you some advice, but I'm telling you what, you don't need that. You can go watch people do mock drafts and just see how drafts fall,
Do your own mock
um,
drafts.
and then plan it. Plan your draft. That actually that's my biggest tip. Just plan your
Yep, plan
draft.
draft. Yep.
Plan your draft. Like go into mocks, pick at the exact spot that you were going. So I would have picked at 4. So I would do a mock draft, do a few of them on the app that you're using, see where guys are projected at that current moment, and then also have your, have guys that are real like low key bangers for you that you are going in saying, hey, if these guys fall to me, I'm gonna take them. Like have your guys plan it. It doesn't take a lot, but it will win you leagues if you are really serious about doing it. It's
Yeah.
not, and you're just doing it for fun. There's nothing wrong with that. But there's a lot of very experienced and very difficult leagues out there. You guys take too seriously, and sometimes it's really just them over processing and having to think about what who they're going to play because it's a weird
Yeah.
matchup. I've done that at times.
I
Sometimes you
have
just got to
to.
let it roll. So you just got to learn that what really works for you at the end of the day. That's I mean, there's no other tip better than that. Just know yourself and just trust what you think is best. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, don't beat yourself up because we all
Yeah.
do it.
For sure.
So yeah, I mean that's pretty much all like I got for us today. It went a little bit longer than usual, but
Yeah.
honestly, that was a lot of fun.
It was a great
And
time.
hopefully we can grow the channel a little more and we can do our own drafts with guys, and even join some more leagues or something that are just free and just have some fun. But yeah, we'll probably honestly, and I would really like to do this before we get off, is just say like throughout the year, we'll definitely give like fantasy tips if you guys ever have any, or if we just think like, hey, here's gonna be our like big 3 guys to go off this week or something like that, we'll probably try to incorporate that to our content along with doing just the normal Browns, Cavs, all that sort of stuff. Because we're just so heavily involved with fantasy, we might as well
Yeah.
do it. So, yeah, expect that within the future. But dude, we're 2 weeks away officially
Yeah.
from the NFL season, week 1 starting.
And don't
Uh,
forget, next weekend is the start of college football.
college football, and so
So we got Ohio State next weekend.
I mean they're playing Akron, but still,
Hey, we still got something to talk about
yeah,
next
we still
weekend.
got something to talk about. We get to see Will Howard and all those guys play. We might even
Yep.
see some of the younger guys play in that game if we beat the shit out of them. So, um, Andrew, what are you looking forward to the most at this point?
I mean, I'm just looking forward to the start of the NFL season at this point.
Yeah.
I'm ready for these 2 weeks to fly by so we can deep dive into football more. And obviously, at the time that baseball season is going to start coming to a close, we'll have playoff baseball to talk about. And this, like we talked about before, this is the best time of the year for sports. You're getting to playoff baseball, and a couple months you got NBA basketball kicking off again. You got the NFL season kicking off in 2 weeks. College football kicking off next weekend. This is the prime peak of sports right here. Is once you get into the fall months. So I'm ready for it, and I hope all of you are ready for it as well.
Oh yeah. And listen, it's August 22nd right now. If you are not ready for football at this point, you got a problem with me. So
And
yeah.
me,
So yeah, we'll obviously have pre Ohio State game stuff, to come with. We'll probably have some more guards talk. They just lost today, so they're kind of doing their own thing. So we'll have a lot more to talk about, but we wanted to do something a little more laid back and fun for us. So we'll see you guys next week with some more football, some more baseball news. Remember, we're just BSing out here.